Welcome back to the Python tutorial series. I'm so glad you're here. This is the 16th video in the series, and today we will learn about tuples. I will first go over what a tuple is, and we will write some code. Then I will go over the difference between lists and tuples. The timestamps are in the description below, so let's get started. Let's first start by making a tuple. There are two ways to make a tuple. One way is to have open and close parentheses and then put numbers inside. Another way is just to put numbers separated by commas. That's the two ways to write tuples. Like lists, you can print the index of a tuple. And remember, the index starts at 0 for lists, not 1, and the same goes with tuples. So when I print my tuple 1, the first index, it will output 4. I could also print the entire tuple, my tuple 2. And when I print this, it prints the tuple in parentheses. And that's how we know that it's a tuple. Like lists, we can check the length of a tuple by printing len, which is length, my tuple 2. And when we run this, we get a length of 5. We can also see if a specific number is in a tuple, like we can do in a list by doing print 10 in my tuple 1. So when we run this, it will output false, because 10 is not in my tuple 1. We could also print 5 not in my tuple 1. And when we run this, we get false, because 5 is in it, and we're checking to see if it's not in my tuple 1, which it is, so it outputs false. What makes tuples unique is that they're immutable, so you can't change values in the tuple once you define it. So if I do my tuple 1 and set the first index, which is 0, to equal 5, when I run this, it will give me a type error, because you cannot change values of a tuple. Similarly, I cannot append values to tuples because I cannot change it once I define it. And it will give me an attribute error because unlike lists, tuples don't have the attribute append. Since you cannot change values of a tuple, it would be good to create tuples for things that don't change, such as the coordinates of where you are, for example 47 and 32, or the color red in RGB format, which is 25500, that will never change, so we can store it using a tuple. So now that we know a little bit about tuples, let's review the difference between tuples and lists. For tuples, you surround them either with parentheses or nothing at all, and you put a comma in between each value. For lists, you surround everything with brackets and put a comma in between each value. Tuples are immutable. That means you cannot change the values once you define them. However, with lists, they are immutable, so you can change the values at any time. Since tuples are immutable, you don't have attributes such as .append and .sort because you cannot change the order or add things to it, but you can for lists. Because tuples are immutable and don't have as many attributes, it takes up less space and is quicker to run the program. On the contrary, lists take up more space and it takes longer to run. They both share some things in common though. You can store different types of data in them and look up values in the tuples and in the list. So that is a brief overview of the difference between a tuple and a list. This video we talked a lot about tuples. If you would like to know more information on lists, please hit the info card above and you'll see a whole video just on lists. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow along with this video series by subscribing and hitting the notification bell, or by clicking on the next video so that you can expand your knowledge about Python. And as always, I can't wait to see you next time.